Well, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ellithorpe at Tustin Longevity Center here for the Ask the Doctor Anything Tuesdays at 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. We do this weekly. We do this as a service to our patients and their family and friends, and for ourselves. You guys keep me on my toes. We are taking questions both as emails that you can get at tlcdoctors.com. Get on our newsletter, and then you'll get informed weekly reminders that we will be doing this. We do it very faithfully. Most of the time, I would say 99% of the time we're here. It would be very rare that I would miss it. We also when you get that, you'll get a link on the email to remind you, and you can type in your question, the link on the email for this purpose, so that your question will go right to the set of email questions. The next way is right here on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, the live questions I will take from the live audience and take their questions as well. We cover all things. So this is not meant to be medical advice over the YouTube, but rather just how a functional doctor, we practice functional medicine. We're standard physicians and naturopaths and uh, um, physician assistants here who are trying to do our best to use prevention or restorative natural ways to help our patients. So your questions will get a generalized answer. Sometimes I know some of you are my patients, but you can't take this as personal advice. This is all general advice. If you find this of value, please like and subscribe. Share it with your family and friends. There are also questions at the end of each video. You can type in a question on the YouTube, and I do look at them several times to see if anyone's asked me a question. I don't think I've missed any, and I will type in an answer or a reference. So let's begin with our email questions. On our first page, the first one is Sharon. And Sharon says, thank you for your commitment and care, Dr. Ellithorpe. Thank you for being wonderful patients. My friend has been diagnosed with shingles. I used a host of natural supplements when my husband had shingles, but that was years ago, and I don't recall what they were. What do you recommend alongside her doctor's care? She also takes your immune support supplements. Thank you so much. Sharon, shingles is a outbreak along a nerve path, and it is normally it's in our spinal column and the dorsal horn. It just lives there, and if we have a good immune system, we keep it suppressed. So a lifestyle that suppresses the expression of the prior exposure of shingles, chickenpox, which is the varicella, which becomes shingles later on down a particular nerve root. It's unilateral. It's on one side. It's very painful because it comes along a nerve root. And it usually has the vesicles, the little water-filled blisters that show up when you have chickenpox, for instance. Things that upset your homeostasis, your sense of well-being, aging, our innate immune system begins to be less effective. The adaptive side of the immune system, where your body is trained when it sees certain pathogens that it makes antibodies to them, actually gets better. But the ability of our body to make the type of innate cells and adaptive cells diminishes because they're produced from things like proteins and fats. When we make these NK cells or these T cells, and we have to produce them. So you have to eat well to produce healthy products of your metabolism for your immune system, which are these series of cells. So if you eat a high glucose, starch, carbohydrate, and I think one of the things my patients don't seem to grasp is, and I'm in this group too, um, we often excuse ourselves and say, "This won't hurt me. I can afford to eat this, or I can afford to have some treat." And what then happens is with marketing and the social pressure, even at church with all the silly donut foods they have, we are excessively exposed to more high fructose corn syrup and uh, sugar starch items than we normally would. And we get trained and we get a feedback psychologically that it's a reward. So, one of the worst ways to ruin your immune system is as you're aging, is to eat a richer carbohydrate diet full of sugars and fruit sugars and juicings, and neglect to eat the no carb meat, fish, chicken, pork, eggs, crab, lobster, and shrimp, and things like that. The other thing is we lose our muscle mass with aging. Our muscle mass then cannot burn down our habitual pattern of eating, and we all start getting buildup of glucose, which is immunosuppressive as well with aging. And with aging, responsibilities, life stressors, tragedies happen, deadlines occur, we stay up all night, we're letting all this electromagnetic energy come to us. Our computers are on, the light is getting into our eyes, we're not making the wonderful antioxidant melatonin from our pineal gland. And then we don't get our good sleep. We lose our hormones that make our brain cells more susceptible to lower thresholds of stimuli. We get easily awakened. And these things add up. Then, on top of that, our digestion begins to diminish with age. We don't break down fats as well or proteins as well, whereas the sugar, starch, carbohydrates are quickly absorbed. And so we get into a pattern that we go for quick energy rushes, dopamine rewards, and say to ourselves, excusing that we can eat these things. And with age, we become less active, meaning we're not exercising, we're not outdoors enough and getting in some sunshine and getting the radiant energy of the full spectrum of the sun, which energizes our cells. And even it's now reported that we make melatonin in our mitochondria. New research is coming out that being outside, getting on our skin surfaces, and there's the visible spectrum of the light, and then there's the non-visible or infrared as the waves get uh, shorter. And these then can actually, be beneficial. The long waves can penetrate through our clothes, so you don't have to be undressed or in your bathing suit. So we're outside less, getting the benefit of the sunshine, which provides energy. And melatonin is a antioxidant that quelches free radicals production of our mitochondria. It's like an engine that has waste, exhaust, and that's called a free radical reactive oxygen species. And part of the melatonin we're learning that is produced there quelches it. So there's a homeostasis, just like your car engine will heat up, but you have a coolant. And most of us don't drink enough water. And as we drink less water, we have more stress, we stay up too late, we have electromagnetic energy entering our eyes, we diminish our pineal melatonin, we don't sleep well, we've lost our hormones, we don't take enough protein in, we don't digest it as well. These all add up to immune failure. And so these stresses will emerge then as an outbreak of shingles, or you'll succumb to a viral cold. So we have to work on these premises that with our adulthood and our maturity, we have to be the parent to ourselves and say, you shut that computer off, you shut the lights off, you get into a dark room at night, You try and start winding things down and turning them off around 9 o'clock. And then you go to bed and you try and learn to get up at 5:30 or 6 in the morning with sunrise. Step outside, let your feet stand in the moist grass, let yourself get grounded electrochemically. The earth has a negative charge and we need those electrons, and that will help out energize us. It will help us also with the infrared that we're getting from the visible sunlight. Most of it's infrared, and those long waves will go right through your clothes. You feel infrared as heat. You could get a sauna, an infrared sauna. I have one of those, and you can get in that 3 times a week. Then you can get your commitment to your water, start drinking it in the morning. Then you can do your exercise or plan for when you're going to do it 3 times a week, some weightlifting and build up your muscle mass. Then you can look at your diet and say, now realistically, what am I eating? And can I cut sugar, starch, carbohydrates, fruit sugars, juicing, sweeteners out of my diet? Could I do that? Or do you have an addiction to it? So, working on these things is our part of the job. Nutrients that are helpful is having zinc around 25 to 50 milligrams a day for a few weeks, especially during the term of the outbreak of shingles or any illness. But I would say somewhere between 5 to 25 milligrams is where we should be at. Our TLC multivitamins, minerals, our TLC multiminerals have 6 milligrams of the zinc, albion chelated, highly absorbable. And then it has the potassium and the manganese and the magnesium and the calcium. All these are very valuable. Again, this zinc would very much be helpful in fighting viral activities. The increased meat, fish, chicken, all these will have more of the amino acids of which lysine is associated with a at least anecdotal experience of diminishing the viral outbreaks of herpes and shingles. So a rich protein diet, low carb, you can work on eating that. For that, natural lysine is in the meat, fish, chicken. You could make sure you're getting yourself in some sunshine every day to get that energy to help boost all your cells and the cells that make your innate immune and adaptive immune system, make the killer cells, T cells, macrophages, lymphocytes, white blood cells more functional. Adequate hydration. Um, and then the good night's sleep with a vitamin D, you could take extra. And vitamin C, if you take a large amount, can give you diarrhea. So you would have to adapt yourself to anything above 1,000 milligrams a day. But you can do it. You can take, some people work their way up to taking 4 grams a day, 8 grams a day, and that would be beneficial. Ascorbic acid is the mammalian kingdom's universal stress agent. Animals, when they're stressed or ill, they make logarithmically more vitamin C. Human beings and guinea pigs don't make any vitamin C, so that would be beneficial. You could also come into the IV department and get a high dose vitamin C drip for a few days in a row. You could also take anti-inflammatory aspects of quercetin. The seasonal shield is dehist from orthomolecular seasonal shield, very rich and high quality tested quercetin. That's another benefit. Those would be the directions that I would go, Sharon, in trying to help along with whatever her doctor is doing. Some of our live questions are coming in. Jennifer says, a loved one recovering from C. diff, I found a study that SBI Protect works, SBI Protect powder. You use 2.5 grams twice a day In the study, they used 5 milligrams twice a day. Safe to use the higher amount of 5 milligrams? Yes. The thing with the SBI, serum bovine immunoglobulin A, the A is what we secrete, this antibody. It's a general defense antibody right into our saliva as we eat. And so it helps bind anything that might be in or on that food that could potentially be a pathogen. And as you mix it with your saliva and it goes in your stomach, then of course your acids will help make it better. But that serum bovine immunoglobulin taken in the higher dose, 5 grams twice a day, that immunoglobulin A helps with the immune system all the way down the gut and is very wise in application. You could use it 3 times a day. It's just really from the colostrum of New Zealand heifers, cows that the first milk that they produce is rich in immunoglobulin, just like a mother's colostrum. So it's very good. She also goes on to say, P.S. Since there's no money in supplements like SBI Protect, doctors don't even tell patients how helpful they can be. Thank you for all you do. You are teaching the TLC Health Freedom Tribe. Well, we praise the Lord. Yes, we have to pay our bills. And yes, it isn't like we're rolling in anything here. There are times I have to admit where I have to forfeit getting a paycheck. That's how close it is sometimes for us. But whatever the Lord is going to sustain, He's involved in. And so I never worry about the income. I worry about the quality and the research and the, the efficacy of what we're doing. I'm very happy to see so many YouTube doctors learning and growing. I feel so blessed that we've been doing this for over 40 years. Everything that they're marketing today, what was the thing? Someone was saying it was new, and yet we had been doing it for 40 years. I don't recall what it is. I know there's just so many things they claim are new, and it's not new at all. We have to have freedom. We're called the TLC Health Freedom Tribe. We doctors, like when I was trained, I had to take the vaginal swabs and do my own lab tests for trichomonas with a microscope. I had to set my own plates up for gonorrhea screens and light a candle and put a jar over it to get all the oxygen out. Then I would put it over my plate until I could get it to the lab. We had to look at our own urines. We had many, all the doctors that I trained with back in the 70s had their own little labs, and I still have my own lab. Today, they're making everything so automated. It's as if doctors can't think anymore or investigate. And maybe they design it that way so that they only take the dictum from the pinnacles of lauded academia. But we are the eyes and the ears, the point men in the war against disease. And we have to have tools, and we have to train our doctors and nurses, our front office, to understand we're in a ministry here, loving patients. And number two, that we should have a broader width so that we can prevent disease rather than letting people be referred and the ball kicked like a hot potato into some quote unquote specialist office who doesn't look at the person as a whole and realize all these lifestyle issues. And of course, what they say, 85% of all disease is chronic and lifestyle related. So the effort that we put in here into research and providing instruction on prevention or recovery is the key. So thank you for that, Jennifer. Christina says, hi, Dr. Rita. My husband is 42, normal weight. No known issues. He's starting to get spider veins around his rib cage. He does construction. What are your thoughts? Thank you. As the skin thins with aging, and are we starting to see some aging prematurely? Are we seeing younger people and the all cause mortality dip into the younger years? Yes, we are. So there's a multiplicity of things that could be involved, but typically it's when the skin is thinning. Those spider veins were always there. It's just the thickness of the skin down to where those little veins were is now thinning out. Um, and so it could be that he's not eating enough protein, and the collagen and elastin is not being formed, which is the rebarb that holds the skin up in the dermis so that it isn't collapsing on you. As you look at someone who is very old, their skin is very frail and thin, and you can easily see all their little blood vessels. I would say, for the most part, it sounds benign, but there are so many other factors and concerns that I have, especially since the um, uh, alleged pandemic and the treatments that they offered with their vascular injuries that were associated. I would see a physician and have this addressed and looked at. Dolores says, hi, Dr. Rita. What do you recommend for cold sore on the lip? Would you use Argentin 23? Absolutely. I would use the Argentin many times a day. I would probably fast for 24 hours. I would just drink, half my weight as pounds as ounces. I would rest, maybe get some sunshine, take extra vitamin C, take extra vitamin D for a week, and zinc and quercetin. And that with the Argentin 23 should be able to help stop it very quickly. Michelle says, is meat bad for you? Absolutely not. My husband would like me to do a plant-based diet. Um, Based on just the commercial massive money pressure from pharmaceutical and certain industries like General Mills and Kellogg and Post that are trying to push this. That's what you're being fed, science that is sponsored by the producers of these um, carbohydrate rich foods, cheap cereals and stuff. They're going to find any way to finance, and there are unfortunately a vast majority of physicians and scientists who don't honor God as whom they're serving and his creation, but rather they're serving their own self interest, pride, and advancement. Therefore, they will look away and say, well, maybe it would be true. I'll go along with a group and sign off that this is tearing down meat. Um, Indeed, um, the more we see the cereals and sugars that were added to the American system, the more we saw diabetes, cardiovascular, cancers, insulin resistance, chronic metabolic disease. No, I'm 100% carnivore, and I have been largely a carnivore. You know, my dad was in armor food research, so I was raised on meat. And I have absolutely no disease in my 70s. I have no medications I need except my natural hormones I use because I don't make the hormones anymore. And I'm working about 6 days a week. My staff is forcing me to take a few days off here and there because they don't want me to keel over. But unless the Lord's ready for me to stop serving him, I'm going to be here for decades and decades, and I'm going to work. I'm not going to retire. So, where would I go to look at information on this? There is a plethora of good information on the YouTube. You can also see oppositional information by other doctors, like unfortunately, Dr. McDougall just died. And he was the one who promoted the plant based diet. But he wasn't much older than me, and he's gone. And I'm seeing many more people who are the omnivores, eating both plant and the meats and fish and chicken and pork, who are doing better. It's all about insulin resistance. So if you want to know whether you should cut back on plants, ask your doctor to do a fasting insulin, a lipid profile to get your triglyceride and HDL in particular. If your triglycerides are higher than your HDL, that's bad. If your fasting blood sugar on the chemistry is over 85, that's bad. If your insulin is over 4, that's bad. And if your hemoglobin A1C is much over 5.2%, that's bad. Your insulin resistance, and every good piece of vegetable and plant food is going to add to your insulin resistance. You will have to go through a period of time where you eliminate those and go carnivore for about 2-3 months to correct those numbers. So how long will I stay as a carnivore, an 100% carnivore? I will probably do 3 months on and maybe a month off, 3 months on, maybe a month off. Uh, I don't live by any dictum. I'm just always checking my numbers and keeping my blood sugars in the 50s and 60s. If I ever see it pop up, I go directly to a carnivore program for months. My exercise, weight training 3 times a week, and so forth. So no, I would look at Dr. Ken Berry, Ken, and last name Berry. Uh, he has a YouTube channel, Ken Berry, doctor. He's a family practice doctor. He's been, I think, a carnivore himself 100% for maybe 7 years. There's a Dr. Chaffee, Chaffe. I think he's been a carnivore for over 10 years. The literature is quite valuable in showing its insulin resistance from starch, fruit sugar, carbohydrates that's harming us. Let's see. The next one is Lisa. Lisa says, which is the better systemic enzyme to take, nanokinase or serrapeptidase? Well, if they would do research instead of funding their little inbred buddies left and right connected to pharmaceutical companies to patent a drug so that they'll get royalties on, the FDA, the NIH is basically a private front group for the pharmaceuticals to look as if it has some form of federalism to it, but they don't represent us. They represent themselves and the mega corporations that are destroying us with their drugs and intervention. So if we could get money to look at nanokinase compared to serrapeptase, I could give you the answer, but I can't right now. And I find them both apparently equal. I use the serrapeptidase, and I've used it for maybe 40 years now. And I would say none of the inflammation. I have had leg clots that dissolve away on my patients, and the radiologists at Hoag Hospital here can't believe it. They've never seen anything in patients such as I've had. I've had perfusion scans on people with heart coronary arteries that show ischemic, lack of blood flow through their coronary arteries. And they do these systemic enzymes and chelation therapy and a carnivore diet and plenty of water and graduated exercises tolerated. And their reperfusion scans 3 months later show resolution. And they don't call me. They don't want to know. They don't want to have to work and study. So don't become a doctor, anyone, unless you want to be a student all your life and you love people and the Lord, in my opinion. But that's the problem, Lisa, with nanokinase versus serrapeptidase. They're both good. But I have most of my experience with serrapeptidase, and it's never failed me. Cheryl says, what do I do for leg cramps doing keto? Supplements didn't work. These 2 high potassium shakes helped. Don't always want to depend on these shakes. Well, I don't know what's in those shakes, and I don't know what kind of supplements you're taking because the field in the alternative complementary vitamin sales is being bought up by the pharmaceutical companies, and they're keeping them inferior and coming under their management. So I'm working only with companies that are independent of the pharmaceutical influence, that are albion chelated multiminerals, and that's what my TLC multimin is. It is the highest quality of absorbable multiminerals. The other thing I would say to you is don't eat late at night. Don't drink alcohol at night. And you might, if you're not drinking enough water, make sure you drink your water. And if you drink your water, you might want to get structured water. So, what I'm doing here is I have a crystal with this water in it. You can see the bubble moving on it and down. This is pure, easy, or structured water. When I put it in here through the crystal, not glass, through the crystal, it entrains the other water molecules who want to be organized. And when you drink this water in a trained fashion, and what I do first is I spin it. See my little swirl there? As soon as I take it off the magnet, then the swirl goes down. But I'm spinning my water to get it ready for structure, to have it full of oxygen. Then I pour it in my glass with my wand, and I make sure it's structured, and then I sip it with my green straw, and it is better absorbed. It's not chaotic water. I do filter it first in my Alexa Pure water filter. So I'm taking a filtered water, putting it in my vortex spinning machine, okay? Spinning it, helping to pre-structure it, getting more oxygen in it. And then I'm pouring that in here with my wand and stirring it with my wand to train the water to be organized. You can look that up. Dr. I think his name is George Pollack, Pollack, and you can learn about the science behind the physics of drinking structured water, and how it has better absorption and is associated with tests that amplify ATP production, which is hydrating the cells, which he was a muscle specialist, PhD, studying the physiology of muscle contractions and cramping. And this is what he found, is that the water we do drink is so hurt, you might say, in the straight pipes and the long containers that are still and chaotic of the molecular, that the structuring, spinning, and the training of the water to get it into its hexagonal form for quick absorption is truly making the difference. So maybe that'll help you with your leg cramps, Cheryl. Christina, what should I do for what I think is a drop in sugar? I tried doing mostly carnivore. I cannot fast anymore. Sometimes I get symptoms of what is low blood sugar. Thoughts? Well, Christina, I don't know who you are. I don't know what your age is. I don't know what your other potential comorbidities may or may not be. I don't know what your activity level is. I don't know what your lifestyle demands on you are. I don't know what your sleep cycle is. I don't know how much water you're drinking. And I don't know what time you're eating. We should all be able to go without food for several days and not die, okay? We have been so enmeshed and saturated in a carbohydrate rich diet that stopping it produces withdrawals from our trained learning of addiction to carbohydrates for that satisfaction dopamine thrill. So if you stop abruptly, you will have withdrawal, which has the sweats, the fatigue, the depression, the anxiety, the tremulousness, all these issues of those symptoms. But you won't die if you're an otherwise healthy person. You're just going through withdrawals. If you're doing it cold turkey and you're an otherwise healthy person, you should be able to be beyond the withdrawals within 3 days. And I haven't had a carb in months, and I can go without food for 5 days, not even carnivore. So it is impractical to think that it cannot be done. um, so I would, unless you have some other issue, and I can't speak to it because I don't know you personally as a doctor. Any healthy person should be able to go without food, for 18 hours at least, and learn to fast in a 6 hour window. If you're under the age of 50, 55, you can fast anytime you want, per se. Let's say you skip breakfast and have lunch to dinner, noon to 6 p.m. But I'm learning that the older you get, it's better. We have better utilization, better insulin response if we eat breakfast and finish eating by 2 p.m. And then we fast until tomorrow morning from 2 o'clock until 8 a.m., 18 hours later. So that would be my thought. Another thing, if you feel that you have to have something, take a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, take a tablespoon of ghee, which enhances water structure, by the way, or butter, not so much. Put that in a warm drink, warm tea, or warm coffee, and that will give you energy. That would be another thing you could do as well, Christine. Cheryl says, I'm also low potassium level. Well, if you take a high quality research, clinically researched our TLC multi-mins, we solve that with this. And you have to make the membrane so you don't. So if you have holes in your membranes from injury, viruses, or whatever, it's going to leak out your minerals. You have to eat enough fat, chicken, meat, fish, eggs, and stuff to make all these fatty membranes that hold together your cells so that they're functional and not losing their electrolytes to maintain a healthy electrical potential across the membrane of 90 millivolts. Okay, what can I do for a canker sore in a 4-year-old? Well, the same thing. We're probably feeding these children too much sugar, crackers, goldfish, treats, and their sugars are too high. They're becoming insulin resistant. Have the pediatrician do a insulin, a chemistry with your fasting blood sugar, and have them do a hemoglobin A1C and a fructosamine to see how much fructose, high fructose corn syrup is getting into them through these treats, suppressing their immune system and messing them up. And in the meantime, make sure you give them vitamin D3. You can use it as a liquid. Usually 1 drop has 1,000 international units in it. And give them a zinc to suck on. There are zinc lozenges you can get. Hopefully they're of good quality. And don't give them a high sugar diet. Go get them a lysosomal vitamin C or a Emergen C at the health food store. Put it in their water so they're getting 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. And then go put Argentine silver topically on their areas that are irritated 1,000 times a day if you need to. Thank you, I will, says Michelle Weldon. Okay. Brent says, good to see you, sis. Is it possible for zinc copper before bed to cause restlessness and sleeplessness? I've never heard that, Brent. There is a balance between the zinc and copper ratio. That's why I'm cautious to tell you to take anywhere from 5 to 25 milligrams of zinc on a daily basis. A good multi-mineral vitamin. Ours is called TLC Energy Core. We use the orthomolecular Mito Core, and these are alveon chelated minerals, and they're in a balanced ratio. Um, Whether the imbalance can create irritability or an excess of zinc, or a diminishment of copper, or the converse, too much copper. Yes, there are problems systemically that can occur, but we can always do a serum level or a red blood cell mineral level and find out. A functional doctor would know how to do that. But I would say that that's rare. I would say that's rare. More likely, exposure to YouTube, the blue lights getting to your eyes, stopping the pineal from secreting melatonin. The actual energy waves are irritating. The electromagnetic energy waves around your home, your cell phone are irritating. These kind of things would be much more likely as a problem. Dorothy says, what are your thoughts on the use of peptides, specifically ipamorelin and CJC1295 to increase testosterone levels? Dorothy, you got me there. I'm going to have to write this down. Now, peptides in general I know about, but I'm not sure that I know what is this marketed thing they're calling IPAMORELIN, and the other one is CJC1295 to increase testosterone. So you'll have to check in next week on this. IPAMOR. Okay, I'll look at that next time. Now, peptides, extra supplemental amino acids. We have the perfect aminos, which are a research clinical supplementation of balanced 8 essential amino acids. I don't believe they have the branch chain amino acids in them. But a person who is eating enough meat, fish, chicken, turkey, eggs, bacon, dairy products, lobster, crab, shrimp, those kind of things. And if they have digestive enzyme support, I use orthodigestimes that have digestive enzymes and betaine hydrochloric acid. So ever since I turned about 60, over 10 years ago, I knew that I needed to have digestive enzyme support. So that diet should help you with your needs for making your testosterone. But I'm going to have to look that up, okay? Dorothy. All right. Lisa says, what do you think about oral pregnenolone? I'm not against oral pregnenolone, but again, you see, we're trying to spend money on supplements when if you would eat meat, fish, chicken, turkey, beef, eggs, butter. I put butter on my steaks. I put butter on my salmon. I put butter on my scrambled eggs. This butter, this cholesterol that's in it, is hydraulically cleaved way up in the entrance of digestion, and pregnenolone and DHEA are two early byproducts. So why should I buy pregnenolone when I could get it from my food? So I would have your blood level drawn. I like having DHEA because if it's low, and what's low? I like a DHEA around 200 minimum and up to 6, 7, 800 on DHEA. Pregnenolone, I haven't been tracking so much. I've never had a problem with it. So that's all I can tell you on that. Then Hannah says, today I felt lethargic and low energy with my stomach throbbing on and off after eating a few bites. I could feel my stomach hurt more. This has been happening the entire day. What can I do? I would stop eating. I would drink a lot of water, and I would, if you can get some SBI Protect, like the First Lady Jennifer had on the list there, that's the immunoglobulin, serum bovine immunoglobulin that, along with phospholipids mixed in warm water, is healing to the lining of the gut. you need to go to a doctor and get your blood type. Find out if you're blood type A's. A's tend to have more sensitive stomachs as a general rule because they don't make enough digestive enzymes in the first place as a general rule. If it becomes worse and serious, of course, you need to go to an urgent care sooner or immediately. But I suspect if you see a functional doctor and this isn't not an emergency or not becoming serious as far as symptom, that you can get a workup and find out what's going on. A complete digestive stool analysis should be done to look at your microbiome and what kind of good guys, bad guys, how good your digestion is, what the flora is, what the pH is, what the yeast count is, all those kind of things. That's what I would start with, Hannah. Brett says, thank you for that. Lastly, do you have any thoughts on NAD supplements like NMN and NR? These are part of the precursors for the respiratory chain in the mitochondria energy production, Krebs cycle, NAD, nucleotide adenosine diphosphate, and its variations. I would say far more than thinking there's a cheeky little nutrient you should buy. First, I would look at the carbohydrates of my diet, get my insulin fasting, glucose fasting, triglyceride through the lipid panel to HDL and the hemoglobin A1C, and throw in a fructosamine. And then they probably won't know how to interpret these things, but then come back with your numbers and I'll tell you what I think overall. But sure, get your doctor to do that. And then get up in the morning, stand in the wet grass with your feet, with the sunshine in your face. Make sure you're drinking half your weight in pounds as water every day. Try and eat early and end around 2 in the afternoon. Go to bed at 9, get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock with the sunshine. Get a routine like that and see if you need extra energy from things like that. Okay, Brent? We are fearfully and wonderfully made. It isn't so much some special nutrient. Rather, it is the need for a self-discipline lifestyle. Yes, we do have depleted food systems. If you look at Corinne Netter's Encyclopedia of Food Values, and you look at the research here on Corinne Netter's Encyclopedia of Food Values, this is very old. And when they did all this stuff back in the 50s and 60s, there wasn't so much industrialized farming. And the nutrient density was maybe 50% more. So yeah, there's maybe a need for a very good antioxidant. Our choice here is Juice Plus, a very good need for a multi-mineral, TLC multi-min, vitamin D, and iodine, because the food system is depleted. But beyond those four, that's the core. And if you're a blood type A, digestive enzyme, that's what we need. That's where I'd go. And Witzlock says, hello, dear Rita. What recommendations do you have for flying and being exposed to diesel fuel, radiation, crowded conditions, etc.? Well, I would take extra vitamin C, either as emergency or liposomal vitamin C in packets that you can put in your water, drinking enough of your water. I would take Juice Plus. That's got a universal antioxidant, and the C and those antioxidants help break down the aromatized benzene rings that are involved in all this. I would keep your vitamin D level up on travel, and I would take some Argentine silver with you, and I would go like that. So that's how I would do that. Let's go back to our questions here. My friend in his 30s may have sciatica. That's a pinched nerve coming out the lower plexus of the spine to the lower leg, that big nerve plexus. Would you say that diet, sleep, stress management account for about 50% of the healing process? At least, John. And what non-surgical low-cost treatment would you recommend? I would go on a strict carnivore diet for at least a month. I would only eat between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. I would drink half my weight in water as pounds every day. Half your weight. Let's say if you're 200 pound, you take 100 off of that, half of it, and that's how many ounces you would take. And then I would take those systemic enzymes, Vitalzyme or Vascuzyme, five of them on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning. And you could do it maybe at 6 o'clock at night, given if you stop eating at 2, and taking it at 10 o'clock or 9:30 when you go to bed. That will dramatically immediately improve things. And then you got to exercise. You got to work on your sit ups. You got to work on your core to help the structure of your body the way you're doing, which I'll be doing here shortly. I have to change into my gym clothes and go and lift heavy weights with my husband here shortly. Next one, Catherine says, thank you kindly, Dr. E, for providing such great information every week. I'm wondering if EDTA IV chelation removes vitamins and minerals while binding to heavy metals. No. And also removes mycotoxins such as mold. No, it doesn't directly, but it reduces the oxidative stress and enhances nitric oxide production to enhance the flow dynamics and penetration of your tissue so that your immune cells can get to mycotoxins and your enzymes to break them down. Can EDTA IV chelation have any negative impact on the kidneys or liver, especially multiple sessions? No. So no to all of those, okay? It's a myth. This is mythology. I've been around this since I was 7 years old. So 63, 64 years now of my life, I have been always around chelating people. And I've probably had 300 chelations in my life. My labs are perfect. My health is fantastic. And I'm entering my 70s with the commitment of another 30 years of work. So no to all of that. If chelation does remove vitamins and minerals, well, it doesn't. What is the best way to replenish and how often during the course of IV chelation? Well, we have always, as teachers of chelation, advise giving a standard multi-mineral vitamin during the course of life, let alone chelation. So this has just been the teaching pattern for the past at least 50 years. The training at ACAM, the American College for the Advancement of Medicine, acam.org, really was birthed in 1972. And so that's 50 plus years ago. And their protocol was to give a multi-mineral because there was very little funding and the doctors were very conservative and loving doctors, more ministers than they were, specialists. They loved their patients. And there were students always looking for things to help their patients. And they were thinkers. They were always thinking outside of the box. That was why I wrote the book, EDTA chelation. It was called Detox Outside the Box. And it's all about chelation, but they didn't have the financing to actually establish the red blood cell mineral amounts. But we have the TAC trial now from 2012. That was a 10-year study on thousands of patients. And they did it with and without vitamin supplementation. And there was no deficiencies ever documented. Okay. So the answer is no to that. Lorraine says, what are the side effects with IV chelation? I would say none. I've been around it and I see none, zero, nada, zinc, zip, not zinc. And we do put in our chelation extra vitamin C, extra trace minerals or minerals. We put in methylated B vitamins. So we make it a boost to your essential nutrients. And I can't imagine anyone would have a problem. I just have not seen it. And so she says, why hasn't the FDA approved it yet? It has approved it for children with levels of lead in their blood that are very high. So it's an FDA approved item. We're just using it just like doctors who throw hydrochlorothiazide and spironolactone at kids with acne and women with a little edema, and they're worried about their weight so much. And they use it off label use of these things. Maybe as much as 70% of medicines are off label. So EDTA chelation is being used off label in that we're giving it to reduce a plethora of heavy metal exposure and to benefit microcirculation to improve the cardiovascular system. It is FDA approved. It's absolutely FDA approved. All right, Deborah. Hi, Dr. Ellithorpe. Our journey continues to find a new filter for my Berkey. I'm thinking about Bordeaux. Have you found anything better? I'm not an expert in the Berkey replacement filters. You're going to have to call the company and talk with someone on that. You just want to get the specs and find out whether it's one of the filters. It's more expensive if you get the fluorine cleaned out of it as well. But I can't really be your source of answer on that, Deborah. Brian says, Dr. Rita, is it possible to gain weight on a carnivore diet? I do weight training 5 days a week and try to follow your diet recommendations. I lost some weight after starting the diet. Now I'm too thin. I'd like to put some weight back on my 64-year-old male body by increasing my muscle mass. Your thoughts, please. There is such a thing as exercising too much. There is a curve for all-cause mortality and longevity, and it's more like a J shape. So those people who are very couch potato and inactive, they're on this part of that curve, and they have a high mortality rate. But you can exercise so much and bring down your risk and for heart disease and cardiovascular disease into a much lower risk for heart disease and better longevity. But you can exercise so much more that you can come back to the same risk level that the couch potato is at. So I would ask you to reassess how intense and how often you are doing the exercise. Maybe you could keep it up 5 days a week, but you could back off of some of the intensity and just keep your heavy weight training to just 3 days. Now, as far as putting on weight, I would look at the fat content of your diet. You might be eating too much of the lean proteins like chicken or fish and the lean pieces of red meat. I would go for the marbled, fattier pieces. I never cut the fat off my roast. I just cooked a roast today, a nice chuck roast. And before I came here, I ate around 3 o'clock. And I ate the big fatty ends of the piece of the roast. So you'll increase your calories because there's 9 calories per gram of fat. There's 4 calories per gram of protein, and there's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. Now, so obviously you want to increase the percentage of fat. That's why I butter my beef, I butter my salmon, I butter my eggs and so forth. So I get that calorie amount because I can be too low on my calories. And the other thing is if you do add any carbohydrate in, I would be cautious and watch your body mass index. We have a machine here where you could come in and ask to have that done. If you start adding in carbs, it's when you mix carbs with the carnivore diet, high meat animal products with fat, that you can overdo the carbs and get a negative effect. So I would caution you away from that and ask you to just emphasize the fat and maybe back off some on the intensity. Marlise says, I'm a 72-year-old female. 30 years ago, I had my gallbladder taken out. There was very little follow-up or instructions about how I was to recover. It has dawned on me that my inability to lose weight and keep off weight may be tied to having no gallbladder. I'm going to say that's not it because it metabolizes fats. No, it doesn't metabolize fats. it emulsifies them. So the bile is a very polar element, and it goes around a fat globule as it gets into the more water aqueous digestion and stool. That's all the gallbladder does for you. Now, the gallbladder is gone and you are still making bile. You just don't have a receptacle sac that helps you emulsify the fat as well. So really, it's probably you're losing muscle mass and you need to do weight training, Marlies. Sharon says, carnivore over 100 days ago, beef and water and vitamins and salt. I have had 40 plus days of no migraine after 9 years of daily migraine. I have difficulty keeping my electrolytes up as I cramp easily. I drink lots of water and I add a half teaspoon of salt, 1,400 milligrams of potassium citrate to 2 bottles. Take 470 milligrams of reacted magnesium. Still feel like I'm on the brink of cramps. Well, look into Analemma, ANALEMMA dash water.com. Look up structured water. Look up Dr. Gerald Pollack, Pollack, PhD on muscle and cramping and the water. Julie says, hello, when I'm speaking to a woman about her health, she informed me she had a stroke, not sure when, and wondered if stem cell would help her. As for her age, she's around 70 years old. If yes, where would you recommend that she go? Also, her mother has macular degeneration, and what would you recommend for her? Thank you, Julie. Well, I wouldn't recommend stem cell. I'm not a specialist in stem cell. We're looking for a easy treatment. My suggestion is a low carb diet, intermittent fasting, a day or two fasting will stimulate growth hormone and stem cell production in your own body. Number two, EDTA chelation and improved microcirculation, adequate hydration, and systemic enzymes are what she really needs. She needs to see a functional doctor who can look for why did she have the stroke? Why is she tending to clot? What is her blood sugar, her insulin level? What are her food allergies? What is her gut inflammation? All those things. Christina says, hello, Dr. E. Would you suggest walking for exercise in the morning or the evening? Is one time of day better? You mentioned that lifting weights should happen 3 times a week. How long should the weightlifting be? About 20 to 30 minutes if you're doing it consistently without long pauses in between each machine. If you're pausing, be sure to be 30 minutes. I just go machine to machine to machine, and I do it 30 minutes. Walking is probably best in the afternoons because you've already eaten, and that will help you with your digestion and the insulin sensitivity from any carbs that you may have eaten. Barbara says, my mom is 88, had a stroke June 28th, hospitalized for 5 days. Home now with great recovery. AFib, the culprit, we didn't know she had atrial fibrillation. Sent her home on Eliquis, that's a blood thinner. Amiodarone, that's a type of cardiac regulating medicine for controlling her heart rhythm, and atorvastatin, that lowers cholesterol. Don't want to take the atorvastatin. We know the others have bad side effects, but seem necessary. Thoughts? Well, she has to follow her doctor's advice. I don't know who she is and what her situation is. But I would say she needs chelation, EDTA chelation as well, and looking at her diet and why she's so inflamed that would have happened. So let's see if we have any new questions because I'm over 4 minutes already. Let's see. Jill says, thank you for answering my question last week about possible blocked salivary gland. I went to your store and bought your recommended supplements. Today, I will fast this weekend. All right, wonderful. Let us know how that goes, Jill. I weigh 130 and already drink a gallon of structured water daily. That may be too much. A gallon is 128 ounces. So I think I would limit that maybe to 80 ounces. Nina says, hi, Dr. Rita. My husband is 70 and just came down with strong body aches, head cold symptoms, fatigue. No fever. Could he be suffering from the seasonal flu or another COVID variant? No vax. Well, I'm not worried. We should be able to handle colds and flus. I don't trust the testing method for the COVID. And so I would have him, uh, feed a fever, starve a cold. And grandma was right. So have him fast and just drink chicken broth, beef broth, lots of water. Give him 50,000 vitamin D, one a day for 5 days, just 5 days. And then stay on 10,000 a day thereafter. That's general information because I don't know your husband's history. We then normally have them come in and do a high dose vitamin C trip. You can be a walk in and just come in and then do that maybe 2 days in a row or at least twice. You could do it tomorrow is Wednesday and Friday. That would be helpful. I would have him take a TLC multi-mineral with the extra zinc in it, 3 or 4 a day. And if he isn't better in a couple days, then he should be seen by his doctor. And Jennifer says, let's encourage Dr. Rita with a thumbs up on this video. Okay, well, praise the Lord. Thank you for the thumbs up and thank you for referrals. And thank you for supporting the other wonderful doctors I have here. And we are in charge of our future with our decisions we make today. We are so fearfully and wonderfully made. We can heal, we can improve, and we can be viable until our last day when our Lord calls us. So God bless. See you next week, Tuesday at 6. Bye bye.